Welcome, creatures of all ages. No one's here, so that means it's and you have the floor, VOD gang. This is my once again triumphant return to streaming. Anyone who was wondering where I was suffering from some health problems for a while, and but I think I'm back. I think I'm back and ready to kick ass and take names, and I'm all out of names. But yeah, today is going to be a very eventful stream. I have about 4.5 hours, so let's see how much I can cram in. Planning. And so first of all, we are going to be doing an RPG review since I'm not just a lore and history streamer now. I'm also a tabletop game streamer, and yeah. So first we're going to review something called Adventure Conqueror King System, or ACKS, specifically the second edition. So the guy who made it is... Okay, hold on, let me get out his Twitter handle. The guy who made it is named Alexander McCree, or Macreese, however you want to pronounce it. Alexander. Yes, Alexander McCreese, also known as Archon. So... no, that's, let's give it a more bright color. Alright, there... man, this would be much easier if I had... You know, let's just give it a background. But yeah, this is his Twitter handle. His name is Alexander McCree, also known as Archon. He is very active on Twitter, so go ahead and follow him if you want, or don't, because he is also very outspoken about his political views, and not all of you might be into it. But you know what? He's cool. Like I knew he was based after this one Twitter quote reply he did, where he was replying to this one person saying, and hey, guess what? Female mages do not need to wear skimpy clothing in order to and Archon said, replies and says, well, wouldn't it be nicer if they were in a bikini? And I was like, my god, that is based. So I decided to start following this guy. But anyways, yeah, this guy, ACKS is an sort of a hybrid of new calls for balance and game mechanics over role playing, as well as game balance, as well as old school styles of role playing. Definitely a lot of things that hark back to those old days, and if anything, apart from the obvious rules bloat, because there are a lot of rules, it is not for casuals. But yeah, there is the art. Like, check this out. By god, those thighs. And yes, this is the art I made the thumbnail out of. But yeah, I mean, this is probably my favorite my favorite bit of art from his work, because the thighs and the side boob is just scrumptious. Let's see if I can find some other. There's also this, the Blade Dancer and the Axe Woman. Not as much side boob, but a bit and not as much ankle, but a decent bit of lovely tummy. And then there's this royal cheesecake. I'm not going to show it too long, largely because I want to respect this guy's intellectual property and support the creator, but yeah. Yeah, true feminine power. But anyways, before we get started, I promised at the last minute a one song long karaoke. That's why I like to pronounce it karaoke, because I used to learn Japanese, but it didn't really go anywhere, largely because I have no intention of ever living in Japan. But yeah, I am going to sing a song, and it is called Nemedian Chronicle, the Savage Sword by Nemedian Chronicles. Nemedian Chronicles is a French band, and for anyone in the know, yes, it is all about the greatest of all time, the GOAT, Conan the Barbarian. It is a power metal song, and so I'm going to have to take very deep breaths for it, but yeah. So let's see if I can pull this off. Let's just turn off the background music, and let's see. Is the YouTube background music? No, that's the background music, song audio, and a 1, and a 2, and a... In a time of wizards and blades, when human life had no worth, in a time when fortune was made only through the brutal force, he rose from the barbarian night with dark mane and untamed might. He would seize the world by its throat, to slice by his sword the lion's part. He was of Cimmerian blood, fearing none on his road from Hyrcania to Asgard. He carries his savage sword. Alright. He was thief and mercenary, pirate on Goliath sea, gladiator and treasure hunter, plundering the sects of Ophir, famous from Turan to Argus, an iron-willed colossus, with days of flamboyant adventures, and nights full of unearthly dangers. He was of Cimmerian blood, fearing none on his road from Hyrcania to Asgard. He carries his savage sword. My skin is dry. Need to put some lotion. Like, it doesn't feel dry and scratchy, but it feels soft. But I don't know. There's some feeling I have because I just took a shower after a short workout. But I don't know why I'm yapping. But you know, it's like 30 seconds until the next verse. Evoking first and pro is the savage sword. Freedom was his full mistress, the savage sword. Fast and fearless, so tells Hyborian saga about the savage sword. Swashbuckler defying death, the savage sword. Every injury he would face the savage sword. Well done, dauntless, so tell Nemedian Chronicles about the savage sword. Epic. But yeah, that is a song about the legendary Conan the Barbarian, by the Savage Sword by Nemedian Chronicles. But yeah, along with the what is it? I'm going to do test what I call chameleon vision, which is where I try to play a game and read notes out of the corner of my eye. So let's get started. We are playing Rome 2 on hard mode with with Lusitania. Let me just move my avatar to the side, and yeah, we're good. Okay, let me just. Okay. So yeah, Lusitania. The Lusitani were a group of Indo-European inhabitants of the western portion of the Iberian Peninsula who have lived there since the Iron Age. In 29 BCE, following a Roman invasion, the Roman province of Lusitania was created within their territories, accounting for much of current Portugal. The ancestors of the Lusitani comprised a mosaic of different tribes that inhabited Portugal since the Neolithic period. No one knows for certain the origin of these Celtic tribes, but most likely they were from the Swiss Alps and had migrated due to warmer climate in the Iberian Peninsula. Partially amalgamated with the invading Celts, they gave rise to the Lusitani. People or tribes that convinced the Lusitani are described in the Bridge of Alcantara, Agaidetani, Lasienses, Obitani, Tabori, Coilarni, or Colarni, Lancienses, Transcudani, Arava, Merubrigenses, Arabrigenses, and Paisuris. Yes. Livy in 221 BC describes the Lusitani first as mercenaries in the service of the Carthaginians in the war against the Romans. The Lusitani were regarded by historians as skilled in guerrilla warfare. The guerrillas are young individuals in the fullness of strength and agility, selected from among the strongest. Therein lies the key to the defense of the community when it is threatened. The military training of young warriors occurred at specific places in the mountains. In wartime, they march observing time and measure and sing hymns or paeans when they are ready to invest in the enemy. The Lusitanians were considered by historians to be particularly adept at guerrilla warfare. The strongest among them were selected to defend the populace in mountainous sites. They used hooked saunions made of iron and wielded swords and helmets like those of the Celtiberians. They threw their darts from some distance yet often hit their marks and wounded them deeply. Being active and nimble warriors, they would pursue their enemies and decapitate them. In times of peace, they had a particular style of dancing which required great agility and nimbleness, as on their legs and thighs. In times of war, they marched in time until they were ready to charge the enemy. Since 193 BC, the Lusitania had been fighting the Romans. In 150 BC, they were defeated by Praetor Servius Galba, springing a clever trap. He killed 9,000 Lusitanians and later sold 20,000 more as slaves in Gaul. 3 years later, Viriathus became the leader of the Lusitanians and severely damaged the Roman rule in Lusitania and beyond. In 139 BC, Viriathus was betrayed and killed in his sleep by his companions, who had been sent as emissaries to the Romans, Audax, Ditalcus, and Minurus, bribed by Marcus Popilius Linus. However, when the three returned to receive their reward from the Romans, the consul Servilius Caepio ordered their execution, declaring, "Rome does not pay traitors." After the death of Viriathus, the Lusitanians kept fighting under the leadership of Taudulus, but gradually acquired Roman culture and language. The Lusitanian cities is in a manner similar to the rest of the Romanized Iberian Peninsula, eventually gained the status of citizens of Rome. Well, there you have it. Iberia was... Iberia, for a large part of history, was described as... Iberia is described by some as the Vietnam of the Romans, because while the Gauls were conquered in one fell swoop by Caesar, the Iberians took 200 years to finally beat down, and they always had a sort of a sense of, a sense of cultural identity, to the point where people of their tribes were described as being among the settlers of the Spanish kingdoms, along with the Visigoths after the Arab invasion. But yeah, we are playing on hard difficulty. As usual, I'm going to try role-playing a bit and using random events and doing things that the characters I think could imagine doing. That this is probably going to get me to lose, but no matter. I just need to survive until I can finish reading through my content. So yeah, let's get started. That which is good for the not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees. Sounds like a communist thing to say. Nobody's watching, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to timestamp the VOD. But yeah, ACKS. ACKS is a traditional D20 system, but it's known for, it's particularly known for its non-combat. Section, which is very good for high-level play, because one thing that's always been historically very poorly balanced about D20 systems is that at high levels, the casters become absurdly powerful and they outrank the combat characters.
Your people are to be found at the end of the world.
All right.
War is coming, however.
The end of the world.
No land shall be spared. You are to conquer or be conquered. The Celtici maintain a fortress to the south, and if you seek expansion, then the war with them is inevitable. Its walls are high, but your warriors are strong, so pick your moment to strike. Further afield, a number of other tribal lands lay ready for conquest. If Iberia is to become your stronghold, then they must all bow to you. Your people did not ask for war, but if war it is to be, then the world will learn the strength of Lusitania.
Yep, war is coming from here and from here. I didn't ask for war. My neighbors didn't ask for war, but we have to unite in order to fight off our enemies. And if we don't, and if you don't want to unite, well, I'll make you. That's how it always is. So, anyways, so I'm going to hold on. Let me window capture. Random event generator. Probably should have done this earlier, but whatever. Plot generator. Alright, so our main character for this setting is middle-aged, easily embarrassed, and self-conscious. The story begins in an alley, so probably in the boondocks of society. Somebody is haunted by a traumatic experience at sea. Makes sense. And the theme is justice. Alright, let's see what characters we have. Iolus is 28 years old. We don't really have any middle-aged characters. I mean, the closest thing was probably... Oh, Just! This is perfect. Do we have any former slaves? Begins in an alley. Alright, let's just say he is, Iolus is a just king who wants to improve the lives of his subjects. However, before making them prosperous, comes keeping them safe. And he is, safe, and he sets out to conquer the neighboring Iberian kingdoms in order to unite them against the growing threat of Carthage and Rome in the east. He is also haunted by a traumatic experience at sea, in which he received a vision of this tide coming and conquering the rest of this tide of Romans coming and conquering the rest of the world, or at least what he thinks it is. So basically, good guy, lawful good guy, but is willing to do whatever it takes to do whatever it takes. He has a faithful wife by his side, or a schemer from an aristocratic family. Who could eventually help him obtain additional funds from the other chieftains. Very nice. All right, let's go. All right. So anyways, he wants to improve the lives of his people, so let's build some infrastructure for the fishermen, give them distribute additional new nets, nets from the Alright, anyways, ACKS. Traditional D20 system known for good high-level play. So, a good analogy, I think, for... Okay, let's see who our enemies are. Our enemies are the Aravachi, right? Okay, so... first of all, let's bring battle difficulty down to normal. All right. And let's also recruit a spy. a guide for a commander. He is hot-headed, a thug, a bandit basically, and he is a runner. All right, so ACKS. So, as I was saying, what's his name? Originally in the very old school games, the versions of D&D, so I heard, there was sort of a mechanic for high level kingdom building and army management. And a good allegory for this is Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf is obviously much more powerful than Aragorn, because, you know, Gandalf is a wizard and he's also an angel. And but that doesn't really matter as much because Aragorn has a huge army and a huge kingdom to run. So in that way they are relatively equal, at least in importance to the Ring War, the War of the Ring. And just moving everything around on my second monitor. Oh, for fuck's sake. So the first thing I actually found was, it's interesting that particularly strong characters actually get a bonus to XP. The ones with high enough key abilities actually get bonuses to XP. This does make sense. So first of all, I will make it clear. Alexander McCree, Archon. You know, I'm just not going to call him by his name. I'm going to call him by his title, Archon, as more out of respect. He is very much conservative, and as is natural of conservatives, they believe in natural talent and hard work both determine one's circumstances rather than conditions. And this basically is reflected in that the most heroic and talented individuals accelerate due to their natural talent. Or maybe, of course, I'm overthinking this, and I think maybe the peace players from the NPCs. Though NPCs gaining XP, I don't think that's a thing. But yeah, anyways, ability scores are pretty standard for D&D. Okay, I'm going to have to actually go through. There's no actually clear. The Aravachi are far away, so I'm going to actually have to go through enemy other tribes to get to them. So, who are my allies? The Keltichi, the Galechai, Galechi. Let's see.
Greetings.
Obviously not going to give him military access yet. How about trade? So yeah, in order to actually get to the Aravachi, someone needs to let me pass. So it is, as far as I can see, it is going to be the Keltichi. So let me just build up skirmishers, light spearmen, light cavalry. Let's just get some more light spearmen. But yeah. Ability scores are standard for a D20 system with strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence and charisma, with the exception that wisdom is replaced by will and applies to all saving throws. And charisma is important for every character because it's due to its effect on the number and loyalty of the henchmen you gain at high levels. There's definitely a very Arkan's Christian and faith also is reflected in the alignment system. The alignment system really does not have any nuance. Hold on, let's get a dignitary, someone that can make my troops cheaper to support. Let's get some more spearmen. Canterbury. Maybe I can actually maybe if I assisted the Canterbury, they'd give me military access and I could go around. Better than just running in and attacking without a casus belli. Anyways, I'm gonna keep an eye on them. So a very Christian, no nuance in their alignment system, no 3x3 alignment. There's only law, which is obviously good, neutral, and chaos. Chaos is obviously evil, and it's unnuanced to the point that it says neutral characters benefit ultimately only are able to prosper because of the efforts of lawful characters. Lawful characters in building up society. That sort of makes sense, I think, because you know, Conan is an adventurer, a thief, someone who steals from the rich, and a treasure hunter. But none of that would really be possible without civilization to reap the spoils from. And demi-humans apparently are rare and more specialized, in Arkan's own words, and actually have access to only a few specialized classes. I guess which of course are expanded on in more source books. So this is, I guess, is a throwback to the old days of advanced D&D when halflings could only be thieves. Never mind, maybe I could get the Carpetani to let them join me in their war. Okay, they have axemen, lots of axemen, light spearmen. So basically they're aiming to try and break through my front line. Let's see, what kind of a strategy should I go for? I definitely want to make good use of cavalry, I think, largely because if I'm going to just, my front line is going to hold them off without winning, then I want to be able to get, then I want to be able to flank them. So I will... let's get some more frontline troops. Or let's get some swordsmen. Anyways, let's get to the most important part of the game, or at least my favorite part, which is the classes. It's a chiefdom, which means I probably want more influence. For that, I need either 7 authority or 7 zeal. Let's see, how can I get more zeal? Can I do a favor for someone? 2 more authority than the targets. That's obviously not possible. Let's see. I will definitely have to build. Get into combat first. So, in order to level him up and maybe get some ancillaries. So let's do that. Also, let's upgrade. See if we can get some upgrades for her. Let's send her to the Carpetani. Alright, so, first is the fighter, which is like, the fighter is basically, the soldier, basically. The archetypical soldier good at, who can be good at any real fighting style. So, at any fighting style. So, obvious Roman military influences, and Archon has made it clear. Spears are better than swords. So why would anyone use swords? Let me explain. The heavy infantry style, which is basically the backbone of every infantry-based army, is centered around spears and shields or two-handed weapons. One-hand sword users generally also have ranged options. The auxiliary has javelins, or the corsair has a bow. And in other words, carrying capacity is definitely a lot more important, because strength doesn't affect it. Strength only affects the absolute maximum you can carry, but otherwise tiers of encumbrance are standard, and spears take up 1 stone, meaning 1 unit of encumbrance, while swords are only start weighing you down if you have like 6 of them. They have a sixth of an encumbrance, which means that I'll go over this later. So swords are good for light infantry and archers. Anyways, the fighters at higher levels became warlords and commanders and gain a fortress. So the ranger is replaced by, okay, let's get a unit of skirmishers. Hold on, garrison. Alright, so... oh, I can get a champion now, alright, so... I want to improve the lives of my people, so... let's build towards improving sanitation for them. So... after that, the ranger, D&D ranger is replaced by explorer in this case. The explorer is, rather than being purely focused on combat, is based around stealth, but can also survival and travel in the wilderness, so very much a more utility focused than just being the shitty favorite enemy a mechanic of D&D. The ranger also later gets a fortress, but on the borderlands. Let's see, let's get a war maiden who can... someone who can assassinate, I think. I want to level up her up early. Trader, commerce. Alright, I'm good with this. So the rogue's closest equivalent is Thief. The Thief has the traditional backstabbing, stealth, and lockpicking abilities, but emphasis is also placed on climbing, perception, and pickpocketing, so a criminal in general. At later levels, the Thief can break codes and ciphers that can read and cast spells from scrolls. And finally, at high levels, he gains a hideout, which I will go over later. The Wizard XP is Mage, and He does arcane magic. That's it. Pretty straightforward. The cleric XP is Crusader. So interestingly enough, Archon, a more Christian influence in that Archon specifically says that unless the judge has specified other religious orders need to be defined actually by the judge. Oh, I refer to judge because that's what a DM is called. All right, let's get her to do some serial killing. Okay, so the default order, unless other orders are specified, is that of Aminar, the god of law and light. So again, obvious Christian influence. And at higher levels, he gets a fortified church. And next is a very interesting class, which is the Venturer. The Venturer is a merchant. Let's see, what can this guy do? Ready for orders. All right, let's see. Let's send him to the Carpetani again. She seems to be negotiations don't seem to be going very well. And so the Venturer can has abilities is involving bribery, diplomacy, bargaining, and traveling abilities. Basically, they're for non-combat stuff. And higher levels center around creating trade routes, a guild, and eventually a merchant empire. So definitely nice that this campaign is very good for creating a very immersive world with a lot of things to do other than combat. But combat is there too. And then there are the 6 above classes that I just mentioned are.
Spirits have noticed that our treasure stores are wanting. Can you help with this small matter?
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do it your way. So, what is it? The 6 classes I just mentioned are base classes for which the following campaign classes are based on. Okay, negotiations are definitely not going well. So okay, wait, I just realized the guard dog actually provides cunning right now. It used to provide zeal. Alright. Alright, very much a military administrator. Let's get some more cavalry. Going to a bit of a deficit.
How can I assist you? Messing with the enemy.
All right, got him.
There was never any doubt.
Okay, so yeah, campaign classes. We have the assassin. The assassin is almost entirely like thief, but sacrifices a bit of utility for more combat stats and options. For example, the assassin can fight with a shield or with medium armor. All right, we have fish now, so let's get some more fish. Let's build houses for the fishermen. Actually, no, never mind. I need that gold for my army. Then we have the Barbarian. The Barbarian has actually combines the fighter and the explorer class powers. So good at surviving the wilderness, and traveling, but also pretty decent in combat. Doesn't really have the traditional rage ability, and he gets a chieftain's all at high levels. Okay, then there's the Bard. The Bard has traditional Bard features of inspiring courage, and edge, which is done before battle. Magical. Oh yeah, that's the important thing to do. Inspiring courage takes like 10 minutes. Takes like a minute to do. So it's not something you can actually do while in combat. You can't inspire people while they're fighting. Otherwise, they can use magic devices. They can use they have jack of all trades versatility. They can perform. They can recall lore masters. Let's see. All right, let's provide for them for them a drainage ditch. Alright, been recruiting, so yeah, let's get something that boosts his authority. Alright, 7 zeal and 7 in authority. Now we can actually start... Or gathering support. Okay, so the guy in the Council of Chieftain doesn't want to go to war. Too bad, bitch. Get in, bitch. We're uniting Iberia. So, the Bard gets can also, like the Thief, can also break codes and ciphers and use scrolls and he gains a Great Hall at high levels. Let's see, let's get some... Let's get a few more Spearmen. Let's keep raiding.
Sounds fancy. Okay.
Alright, she's leveled up. That's good. Additional campaign movement range and... Okay, so after that we have the bikini armor class, the best kind, which is the Blade Dancer. So the Blade Dancers are interesting in that they are always women and they can do divine magic. So the Blade Dancers are actually priestesses. Priestesses except they sacrifice a bit of raw divine magic to focus more on dodging and finesse-based fighting. They get a temple at higher levels. After that, there is a paladin who actually in the art is depicted as a Greek hero riding a Pegasus. Otherwise, the paladin is almost exactly like a classic D&D paladin, including always needing to be good, or lawful in this case. He gets a fortress at high level. I mean, almost in the sense that I don't think there is a smite ability for him. Cavalry lacks strength in numbers. Okay, can I handle these guys?
How can I help?
Warriors all! The road goes ever on and on. For the tribe!
Alright, let's begin raiding.
Move out! Take what you can!
Yes. Hot. The
Ready
meat.
for order!
Wait, what? Where's all this public order coming from? Wait, am I reading myself? That's strange. I'm pretty sure I'm in...
I am a sage of the forests. Warriors all! For the tribe! Get moving! Warriors all! Getting on our way! A merry meeting. How can I help?
I am the knife in the dark.
Ready for battle.
Yes.
Greetings. Now speak plainly, for we are an honest folk and value honor.
How can I assist you?
Keep peace to you. I am a sage of the forest. How can I assist you? I am a sage of the forest. for battle!
I am the shadows.
Well met. What do you wish of me?
Ready for further orders.
Well met. What do you wish of me? I will walk the old tracks.
How can I help scouting?
Ready for orders. Thirsty for battle. Warriors all. Thirsty for battle. For the tribe!
Oh, all right. Okay, so nobody was here, so nobody was there to remind me that. Nobody was here, so nobody was there to remind me that my mic was off. That's annoying. I'm not going to go over all of that again. My mic was off. After that, there is a paladin who I'm pretty sure I'm in. Writing. After that, there is a paladin who I'm pretty sure I'm in. Writing. Hello? Okay. Microphone just keeps on just popping like a balloon. What else? What else can I do? Okay, he is turning back. That's fine. Wait, the Keltishi are still fighting. All right.
Ready for battle.
I am a sage on the move. I could do more.
What would you have of me?
Yeah. I'm not going to go over more of that. So, okay, if the microphone goes off of one more time, I'm going to end the stream. So carrying capacity is significantly lower than in D&D. One strength modifier only affects maximum encumbrance, but tiers of encumbrance don't change. So full plate full plate armor by default brings you up to the second level of encumbrance. The first level, almost no encumbrance. You run at 40 feet per turn, and at the second level, you run at 30 feet, which is like the default speed in D&D without encumbrance. So, if you want to run really fast, like a blade master, you wear bikini armor. Yeah. And a legionary in complete gear is actually at the third level. Third level, which means he runs at 20 feet. Though it could be brought down to the second level if he drops his backpack and his supplies. Anyways, now comes to the important part, the late game. So the late game involves building fortresses and castles. Cost is measured entirely in labor, and for campaign ease, materials are just assumed to be collected from nearby by workers, which is a little disappointing because historically stone was not that easy to find. Wasn't that easy to find. It often had to be recycled from other buildings, so a little disappointing on that end. Alright, let's send her to visit the Carpetani. Let's see if I can get them to trade with me. Still no aggression pack, no.
Let us break bread and drink.
The anti-player bias is real. So generally on hard difficulty, other factions will only really start trading with you if you or making any treaties with you if you're actually strong, if you actually control an empire. So yeah, otherwise all casters have a limited spellbook or repertoire. It's not like wizards who can just inscribe as many spells as they want, or clerics that can just get any spell they want from the list by praying. And different classes have different XP requirements for leveling up. XP is obtained from killing monsters, but also from bringing treasure back to settlements. Which means that how you split the treasure is ultimately going to determine how much XP you get. Alright, wanna fight? Alright. Let's see. Alright, so...
Ready for battle. To battle.
Can I take these guys? I think I can. I have a cavalry advantage. But yeah, the high-level Conqueror stage play is based around strongholds and armies. And the judge must generate the lower-level characters that follow players. So overall, I think a lot of this doesn't come down to additional work for the players, but more like additional work for the judge. You have to have a really experienced GM. Okay, how far into Vanguard or the mode do I want to get? Alright, let's create a... Do I want to go in the wedge formation, in semicircle formation, let's see. Let's make a very tight formation. So the cavalry are both on this side, so alright, let's rush then. Okay, so conquest of a kingdom or building of a kingdom begins by acquiring a domain which he can develop and attract peasants and other inhabitants to. He can acquire more revenue by collecting taxes and yields from land. And eventually, as he acquires more land, it becomes a realm, which is governed by both him and his vassals. And
one of our units has used all its ammunition. Riders, forward! Pack charge! One of our units has used all its ammunition. Spears ready! Warriors! Spears! Loaded! You have our spears?
alright, let's just charge into the center.
The men are wavering.
Alright, I think I'm doing fine. So, maintaining public order in a realm, maintaining public order is also important to prevent rebellion. Public order in this case is known as morale. And
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
alright, so far so good. Alright, let's get the Cantabrian Circle ready.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Alright, otherwise, barbarians rule clan holds instead, but they can transition into civilization. And dwarves build vaults underground, and elves build fastnesses, I think, around around natural wonders. Anyways, the spears are just a distraction. The important thing is the...
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display. One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Alright, I want to see if I can kill this idiot. The enemy general. Let's see.
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Alright, I will gank their general as well. Okay, some societies are ruled by... the political intrigue largely comes from the presence of senates. Some societies are run by either senates entirely or, what is it? Kings advised by them.
This is a shameful display.
Oh boy. Time to go. Oh, those stupid fucking axemen. Alright, everyone is out. Look at this. 538 kills. Kills from these axemen. Fucking stupid.
Our hidden units have been discovered.
So senatorial republics can be founded by merging several domains together. All of whom agree to be ruled by the legislature or alone. Thieves can build, and their derivatives can derivative classes can build hideouts from where they and their followers can perform hijinks such as assassination, arson, and theft. and if they are caught, they can be tried and punished. There's also a fairly complex system of trade and economics for venturers. Markets in an area have characteristics, and venturers carry impact. Their goods carry impact that can affect, that can concern magistrates and affect customers. And haggling and arbitrage is a long process involving the assessment of prices, supply, and demand. Caravan travel is also very detailed and involves the hiring of several employees, and the purchase of or rental of carts and pack animals.
Flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Alternatively, players can make passive investments. Fucking stupid. Well, at the very least, my cavalry got experience. Oh my fucking god. Asturian Axemen. All right, hungry for glory and hoping to bring wars to an end. And Ordoix has walked into a battle he could not win and ultimately lost.
Destination reached.
Alright, let's see if I can sabotage his supplies. Probably not, he's probably gonna get wounded.
All is not lost.
Alright. King ACKS. Alright. Anyways. Arcane, this is another, here's another really interesting part of high-level ACKS, which is arcane spellcasters can build dungeons. So they build dungeons usually in like caves or like big mazes in the ground, and then monsters can go and inhabit the place, and it's sort of a monster farm. They can harvest the monsters and sell their body parts, and use their body parts for experiments. So that is how dungeons come to be. They're basically created by spellcasters to harvest monsters. Very interesting. Otherwise, the main purpose of Sanctums is to do research, which covers crafting, performing rituals, and researching spells. Anyways, good thing my king isn't there because he is on vacation. He is going on a pilgrimage into the mountains with his wife. Oh, hey, Edo, welcome. I have basically, you have missed the most important part of the most important part of a stream, which is the scuff. I've basically been talking to myself for the last hour and a half, and honestly, it feels great. I mean, doing a stream with no viewers is underrated because it's, first of all, it's good practice, and second of all, it's nice to just talk to yourself. It's like talking to yourself. It's like a stim, and talking for me is very much a stim. It relieves stress, and life is stressful as it is. Oh no, I can't withdraw. Fuck. Well, there he goes. Alright, this guy just fucked around and find out. Well, you understood me there, so you're doing pretty well, I'd say. Alright, this guy has like 0 loyalty, but you know what, it doesn't matter because... no, but you know what, it doesn't matter because I'm protected from possession for another 6 turns, alright? Okay, how long do I have before he comes back? Alright, I'm going to hold back on training anyone for now. Oh yeah, anyways, you missed the RPG review, but you know what, it's not too interesting because, first of all, I'll just end it end the RPG review right there. Overall, this RPG, low-level play can be done by anyone, but high-level play is too complex for all but really hardcore role players, or at least hardcore GMs. Still, high-level play is definitely more balanced than in mainstream D20 systems. Either way, I probably will not be running a campaign with this in the near future unless I find some really hardcore role player streamers to run it with. Overall, very impressive, fun alternative option for combining modern game balance needs with old-school nostalgia. Let's get to the fun part. The Tower of the Elephant. So, first of all, I want to show you something. Let's see, let me get it up. Okay, so this is what Conan the Barbarian originally looked like. In the very early days when the Tower of the Elephant was first published, Conan the Barbarian didn't nearly look like the naked, bronzed, muscular guy we all know. He was a twink with a mewing streak, as far as I can see. But yeah, time to read aloud The Tower of the Elephant. Okay, so, Chapter 1. Torches flared murkily on the revels in the mall, where the thieves of the East held carnival by night. In the mall, they would carouse and roar as they liked, for honest people shunned the quarters, and watchmen, well paid with stained coins, did not interfere with their sport. Along the crooked, unpaved streets with their heaps of refuse and sloppy puddles, drunken roisters staggered roaring. Steel glinted in the shadows where wolf preyed on wolf, and from the darkness rolled the shrill laughter of women, and the sounds of scufflings and strugglings. Torchlight licked luridly from broken windows and wide-thrown doors, and out of those doors, stale smells of wine and rank, sweaty bodies, clamor of drinking jacks and fists hammered on rough tables, snatches of obscene songs rushed like a blow to the face. Not sure why I'd say no. Okay. Everyone has joined my enemies right now. I'm currently at war with 3 different factions, and this guy is the immediate one who is coming for me. No problem. Let's bring out the big guy. After, of course, getting a small donation from the Council of Chieftains. Alright. Iolus, the king. Alright. A lot of guys good on walls, and he's probably going to besiege me, so I probably want to hire some swordsmen.
We need good fighters.
Alright, push is coming to shove. Who's getting the party loyalty bonus anyways? Nobody? Alright. What else can I... Let's see, how about... migration. How many? Yeah, migration. Let's do that. Based. Okay, yeah. So where were we? Oh yeah, so as you can see, it begins in a place in the city called the unnamed city called the Mall, which is basically where the dregs of society, the red light district, where all the where all just the worst people, thieves and chaotic-minded individuals just make merry and seek to profit out from others' losses. In one of these dens, merriment thundered to the low smoke-stained roof, where rascals gathered in every stage of rags and tatters. Furtive cut-borses, leering kidnappers, quick-fingered thieves, swaggering bravos with their wenches, strident-voiced women clad in tawdry finery. Native rogues were the dominant element, dark-skinned, dark-eyed Zamorians, and with daggers at their girdles and guile in their heart. But there were wolves of half a dozen outland nations there as well. There was a giant Hyperborean renegade, taciturn, dangerous, with a broadsword shaft to his great gaunt frame, for men wore steel openly in the mall. There was a Shemitish counterfeiter with his hook nose and curled blue-black beard. There was a bold-eyed Brythonian wench sitting on the knee of a tawny-haired gunderman, a wandering mercenary soldier. Huh? Where'd he go? Alright, maybe I should hire some mercs. Alright, let's go. There was a bold-eyed Brythonian wench sitting on the knee of a tawny-haired gunderman, a wandering mercenary soldier, a deserter from some defeated army, and the fat, gross rogue whose body jests were causing all the shouts of mirth was a professional kidnapper, come up from a distant Koth to teach women stealing to Zamorians who were born with more knowledge of the art than he could ever attain.
Beaks agape for your guts.
Yes, yes. Yes, war everywhere. War, glorious war. But yeah, some very fine people on both sides. Ah, crap. Fact. Okay. Can I handle this guy? Yeah, maybe I can. Oh boy. So the nice thing about being besieged is that the city can be fine, but the besiegers take attrition damage. So I am just going to wait a hot minute. I mean, I'm pretty fucked either way, but you know what? Let's see if I can survive long enough to finish the Tower of the Elephant. Seriously, why does he get so much more gold than me? But yeah, very fine people. Someone who kidnaps women, a women stealer, a counterfeiter, thieves as renegades. The man halted in his description of an intended victim's charms, and thrust his muzzle into a tankard of frothing ale. Then, blowing the foam from his fat lips, he said, "By Bel, god of all thieves, I'll show them how to steal wenches. I'll have her over the Zamorian border by dawn, and there'll be a caravan waiting to receive her. 300 pieces of silver. Count of Ophir promised me for a sleek young Brythonian of the better class. It took me weeks wandering among the border cities as a beggar to find the one I knew would suit. And she is a pretty baggage." Oh, he left. I guess I called his bluff. Alright, he has captured it, which means it's open for me. It's open for me to take. Can I take these guys?
Let them cower before us.
All right. He blew a slobbery kiss in the air. I knew lords in Shem who would trade the secret of the Elephant Tower for her. So basically, the whole time, the secret of the Tower of the Elephant, knowledge of it, comes from a guy bragging about sex trafficking. A touch on his tunic sleeve made him turn his head, scowling at the interruption. He saw a tall, strongly made youth standing beside him. This person was as much out of place in that den as a grey wolf among mangy rats of the gutters. His cheap tunic could not conceal the hard, rangy lines of his powerful frame, the broad, heavy shoulders, the massive chest, leaning waist, and heavy arms. His skin was brown from the outland suns, his eyes blue and smoldering. A shock of tousled black hair crowned his broad forehead. From his girdle hung a sword and a worn leather scabbard. You spoke of the Kothian eventually involuntarily drew back, for the man was not one of any civilized race he knew. You spoke of the Elephant Tower, said the stranger, speaking Zamorian with an alien accent. I've heard much of this tower. What is its secret? The fellow's attitude did not seem threatening, and the Kothian's courage was bolstered up by the ale, as in the evident approval of his audience. And he swelled with self-importance. The secret of the Elephant Tower? Why... Yeah, I can take him. Nah, I'd win. Okay, so the Skitari mercenary have enormous attack and better defense than the medium swordsmen. The heavy skirmishers are also pretty decent. Holy shit, these guys are strong. I'm going to try to get a charge down the hill. Bring it on.
Discovered the enemy's hidden units.
The secret of the Elephant Tower? He explained. Why, any fool knows that Yara, the priest there, the priest dwells there with the great jewel men call the Elephant's Heart, and that is the secret of his magic. The Barian digested this for a space. I have seen this tower, he said. It is set in a great garden above the level of the city. Surrounded by high walls. I have seen no guards. The walls would be easy to climb. Why has not somebody stolen this secret gem? The Kothian stared wide-mouthed at the other's simplicity, and then burst into a roar of derisive mirth, in which the others joined. Alright, let's get a volley of javelins out.
our units has used all its
Let's
ammunition.
go.
They will bleed for us. Shield men, put a go. Ready. What curse you? Ready. Your aim is true. Noble horse. Warriors, move out. Trappers ready. Iberian sword. Scutari.
Okay, this guy is bearing the brunt of their javelins.
Swords. We hunger for blood and battle. Iberian sword. Scrappers ready. Ready for battle.
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Hillmen. Warriors. Get ready. Warriors. Warriors ready.
The men are wavering. Our general is under attack.
Noble cavalry! Fearless warrior! Heavy horsemen!
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Heavy horse! Move it! Pull back!
Alright. Not looking good, but you know what? I've dealt with
One of
worse,
our
I think.
units has used all its ammunition.
Hearken to this heathen! He would steal the jewel of Yara! Hearken, fellow, he said, turning portentously to the other. I suppose you were some sort of northern barbarian.
Ride! Go! Cantabrian cavalry! Iberian sword! Ready for battle!
Alright.
Heavy horse! Cantabrian cavalry! Heavy horse! As you say! Melee warriors!
Alright, now to flex my cavalry advantage. With some very, very slick maneuvers.
Noble cavalry! Understood! Cantabrian cavalry! Orders! Ready! Our aim is true! Heavy horse! Warriors ready! Cantabrian cavalry! Understood! All right, ready! Missile-armed riders! Gotcha!
This does not look good.
Withdraw!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
At the very least, I need to clear out as many of these of his garrison as possible.
Our men flee the field.
Yeah, I'm fucked.
This is a shameful display.
As you say!
Our general has fallen.
Yep, king is dead. I am a Cimmerian, the Outlander answered in no friendly tone. The reply and the manner of it meant little to the Kothian, of a kingdom that lay far to the south. On the borders of Shem, he knew only vaguely of the northern races. Then give ear and learn wisdom, fellow. Know that in Zamora, and more especially in this city, there are more bold thieves than anywhere else in the world, even Koth. If mortal man could have stolen the gem, be sure that it would have been filched long ago. You speak of climbing the walls, but once having climbed, you would have quickly wished you to yourself go back again.
Fall back!
One turn left. One turn left until the inevitable disaster.
Ready for battle! Thirsty for battle!
Well, at least I haven't been overrun yet, completely.
Ready for battle!
There are no guards in the gardens at night for a very good reason. That is, no human guards. But in the watch chamber, in the lower part of the tower, there are armed men. And even if you pass those who roam the gardens by night, you must still pass through the soldiers, for the gem is kept somewhere in the tower above. But if a man could pass through the gardens, argued the Cimmerian, why could he not come at the gem through the upper part of the tower and thus avoid the soldiers? Again, the Kothian gaped at him. Listen to him, he shouted jeeringly. The barbarian is an eagle who would fly to the jeweled rim of the tower, which is only 150 feet above the earth, with rounded sides slicker than polished glass. The Cimmerian glared about, embarrassed at the roar of mocking laughter that greeted his remark. He saw no particular humor about it, and was too new to civilization to understand its discourtesies. Civilized men are more discourteous than savages, because they know they can be impolite without having their skulls split, as a general thing. That is a famous quote, by the way. That is a pretty famous quote, that lack of politeness is lack of manners is a facet of civilization, for good or bad, because people are allowed to be assholes as long as they don't actually hurt anyone or break any laws. All right. Let's see. Come, he shouted. Tell these poor tell these poor fellows, who have only ever been thieves since before you were spawned. Tell them how you would steal the gem. There is always a way, if the desire be coupled with courage, answered the Cimmerian shortly, nettled. The Kothian chose to take this as a personal slur. His face grew purple with anger. What? He roared. You dare tell us our business and intimate that we are cowards? Get along! Get out of my sight! And he pushed the Cimmerian violently. Will you mock me and then lay hands on me? Grated the barbarian, his quick rage leaping up, and he returned the push with an open-handed blow that knocked the tormentor back against the rude-hewn table. Ale splashed over the jack's lip, and the Kothian roared in fury, dragging at his sword. Heathen dog, he bellowed, I'll have your heart for that! Steel flashed and the throng surged wildly out of the way. In their flight, they knocked over the single cradle and the den was plunged in darkness, broken by the crash of upset benches, drum of flying feet, shouts, oaths of people tumbling over one another, and a single strident yell of agony that cut the din like a knife. Alright, here they come all over again. In their flight, they knocked over the single candle, and the den was plunged in darkness, broken and by the crash of upset benches, drum of flying feet, shouts, oaths of a knife cut the din like a knife. When the candle was relighted, most of the guests had gone out by doors and broken windows, and the rest huddled behind stacks of wine kegs and under tables. The barbarian was gone, and the center of the room was deserted, except for the gashed body of the Kothian. The Cimmerian, with the unerring instinct of the barbarian, had killed this man in the darkness and confusion. So, this guy made a motherfucker suffer. Do not talk shit to the 6 foot tall man with muscles bigger than your entire head with a big sword. It is an ancient shiny secret that will lengthen your life. Chapter 2. The lurid lights and drunken revelry fell away behind the Cimmerian. He had discarded his torn tunic and walked through the night naked except for a loincloth and his high-strapped sandals. He moved with the supple ease of a great tiger, his steely muscles rippling under his brown skin. He had entered the part of the city reserved for the temples. On all sides of him they had glittered white in the starlight, snowy marble pillars and golden domes and silver arches, shrines of Zamora's myriad strange gods. He did not trouble his head around them. He knew that Zamora's religion, like all things of a civilized, long-settled people, was intricate and complex, and had lost most of the pristine essence in a maze of formulas and rituals. He had squatted for hours in the courtyard of the philosophers, listened to the arguments of theologians and teachers, and come away in a haze of bewilderment, sure of only one thing, and that they were all touched in the head. Basically, this story is an introduction to Conan. The Barbarian story. What can I do to just buy myself some time? Alright, so the wife of the previous High Counselor has remarried. And now let's give them no available factions to send the politician to. Every faction I'm aware of is at war with me. Province effect. Why is there minus 29 growth?
Thirsty for battle. Get moving. Ready for... Call this a garrison?
All right, let's see. Again, need to buy myself some time. Can I give gifts? Let's see. How can I improve this guy's gravitas? All right. Ortekibas is...
A merry meeting. How can I help? The road goes ever on and on.
Are you ready to do your duty to the tribe?
So this is sort of an introduction to Conan the Barbarian as somebody who is able to a savage who encounters civilization and recognizes the hypocrites with it, the hypocrites within it, and very much the noble savage because, yeah, he's a thief and he is a thief and a vagabond, but in a way he has sort of a sense of he has sort of a sense of honor that in some ways, and a recognition for what is really important in life, which is of course to crush your enemies, drive them before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. His gods were simple and understandable. Crom was their chief, and he lived on a great mountain, where so he sent forth dooms and death. It was useless to call in Crom, because he was a gloomy and savage god, and he hated weaklings. But he gave a man courage at birth, and the will and might to kill his enemies, which in the Sumerians' mind was all a god, any god should be expected to do. What are my odds looking like? What are the odds? Pretty good, actually. I don't know. I don't like the. I don't like my odds, considering what these guys did to me last time. So I am going. Here is what we are going to do. We are going to try to catch them off guard. Bit of a gambit, but you know, gotta try. Okay. So I will point out that I do not believe I do not believe Robert E. Howard was religious. Certainly not as religious as Tolkien. Howard was... he wasn't a believer in social Darwinism, but he hated authority. He hated authority and believed that people should... and generally was more of a fan of people making choosing their own path and finding their own meaning in life. And Conan definitely represents this. All right, got him. And here comes some more. Let's see if I can hold out before I finish the book once again. Finish the story. But yeah, Robert E. Howard certainly was probably not a fan of Christian morality. Fuck, this is it.
Run! Journey completed.
Okay. Well, maybe we can hire some mercs. Let's see. Okay,
Thirsty for battle. Call this a garrison?
let's see.
Ready for battle. Step in battle. There is no finer enemy. For the tribe.
No mercs. Yep, this is it. His sandaled feet made no a sound on the glimmering pave. No watchman passed, for even the thieves of the mall shunned the temples, where strange dooms had been known to fall on violators. Ahead of him, he saw looming against the sky the Tower of the Elephant. He mused, wondering why it was so named. No one seemed to know. He had never seen an elephant, but he vaguely understood that it was a monstrous animal, with a tail in front as well as behind. There was this wandering Shemite had told him, swearing that he had seen such beasts by the thousands in the countries of the Hyrcanians. But all men knew what liars were the men of Shem. At any rate, there were no elephants in Zamora. The shimmering shaft of the tower rose frostily in the stars. In the sunlight, it shone so dazzlingly that few could bear its glare, and men said it was built of silver. It was round, a slim, perfect cylinder, 150 feet in height. And its rim glimmered. Alright, I am being besieged. Well, time to fight to the death.
Ready for battle. Ready for order. To battle.
JFC. You know what, I'm just gonna call it here.
Keep stand.
Absolutely obliterated. I mean, I was wondering, is there any way I could have prevented this, considering... I mean, I could have avoided losing that one crippling battle before, but, you know what... Shrubbery grew thick outside the tower, or outer wall. The Cimmerian crept close and stood beside the tower, measuring it with his eyes. It was high, but he could leap and catch the coping with his fingers. Then it would be child's play to swing up and over. He did not doubt that he could pass the inner wall in the same manner. But he hesitated at the thought of the strange perils which were said to await within. These people were strange and mysterious to him. They were not of his kind, not even of the same blood as the more mysterious, as the more westerly Brythunians, Nemedians, and Xenaculonians, whose civilized mysteries had awed him many times past. The people of Zamora were very ancient, and for what he had seen of them, very evil. It's so over. They sacked me. Oh, there it is. Alright, I'm going to lower it to medium, because I'm clearly I'm garbage at this game. Either that, or I'm just playing a very difficult faction. He thought of Yara, the high priest, who worked strange dooms from this jeweled tower, and the Cimmerian's hair prickled as he remembered a tale told by a drunken page of the court. How Yara had laughed in the face of a hostile prince and held up a glowing evil gem before him, and how rays shot blindingly from that unholy jewel to envelop the prince, who screamed and fell down and shrank to a withered blackened lump that changed into a black spider, which scampered around wildly around the chamber until Yara set his heel upon it. Yara came not often from his tower of magic, and always to work evil on some man or some nation. The king of Zamora feared him more than he feared death, and kept himself drunk all the time because that fear was more than he could ever endure sober. Yara was very old, centuries old, men said, and added that he would live forever because of the magic of his gem, which the men called the Heart of the Elephant, for no better reason than they named his hole to the Elephant Tower. Okay, let's look at the random, let's bring out the random events again. Alright, my character is young, easygoing, and patient. The story begins in a courtroom. A witness to the crime disappears suddenly. The theme is comedy. It's going to be comedic how I lose. All right. Let's see. The greatest rival at this time is Ordoix. No. Easygoing and patient. Hot-headed. Sociopath. Magnanimous. Modest, generous, wasteful. Cheerful. All right. Alright, the previous king and queen died, and Samo was suspected of having done it in order to speed along Iolaus's process to the throne. Oh, and he is questioned about the crime, but it cannot be proven. proven, and because Iolus is his friend, he gets off easy. Samo must win his win back the chiefdom's trust. And we are going to start that like so. Samo. What should he...
Ready for battle. Warriors all.
What would you have of me?
For the tribe. Ready for orders.
All right.
Warriors all. We need good fighters.
What else? Oh yeah, back to the Tower of the Elephant. Okay, so... The Cimmerian, engrossed in these thoughts, shrank quickly against the wall. Within the garden, someone was passing, who walked with a measured stride. The listener heard the clink of steel, so after all, a guard did pace in those gardens. The Cimmerian waited, expected to hear him pass, and on the next round, but silent rested over the mysterious gardens. At last, curiosity overcame him. Leaping lightly, he grasped the wall and swung himself up to the top with one arm. Lying flat upon on the broad coping, he looked down into the wide space between the walls. No shrubbery grew near him, though he saw some carefully trimmed bushes near the inner wall. All right. Okay. No shrubbery grew in. At last, curiosity overcame him. Leaping lightly, he grasped the wall and swung himself up to the top with one arm. Lying flat on the broad coping, he looked down into the wide space between the walls. No shrubbery grew near him, though he saw some carefully trimmed bushes near the inner wall. The starlight fell on the even sward, and somewhere a fountain tinkled. The Cimmerian cautiously lowered himself down on the inside and drew his sword, staring about him. He was shaken by the nervousness of the wild and standing thus unprotected in the naked starlight, and he moved lightly around the curve of the wall, hugging its shadow, until he was even with the shrubbery he had noticed. Then he ran quickly around it, crouching low, and almost tripped over a form that lay crumpled near the edges of the bushes. A quick look to right and left showed him no enemy in sight at least, and he bent close to investigate. His keen eyes, even in the dim starlight, showed him a strongly built man in the silvered armor and crested helmet of the Zamorian Royal Guard. A shield and a spear lay near him, and took but an instant's examination to show that he must have been strangled. The barbarian glanced about uneasily. He knew that this man must be the guard he had heard pass him his hiding place by the wall. Only a short time had passed, yet in that interval nameless hands had reached out of the dark and choked out the soldier's life. Straining his eyes in the gloom, he saw a hint of motion.
Ready for orders. Fight with us. It's a good luck.
He saw a hint of motion and through the shrubs near the wall. Thither he glided, gripping his sword. He made no more noise than a panther stealing through the night. Yet the man he was stalking heard. The Cimmerian here had a dim glimpse of a huge bulk close to the wall, felt relief that it was at least human. Then the fellow wheeled quickly with a grasp that sounded like panic, made the first motion of a forward plunge, hands clutching, then recoiled as the Cimmerian blade finally caught the starlight. For the tense instant, neither spoke, standing ready for anything. You are no soldier, hissed the stranger at last. You are a thief like myself. And who are you? Asked the Cimmerian of a suspicious whisper. Taurus of Nemedia. The Cimmerian lowered his sword. I've heard of you. Men call you a prince of thieves. A low laugh answered him. Taurus was as tall as the Cimmerian and heavier. He was big-bellied and fat, but his every movement bespoke a subtle, dynamic magnetism.
The spirits have noticed that our treasure stores are wanting.
Which was reflected in the keen eyes that glinted vitally, even in the starlight. He was barefooted and carried a coil of what appeared to be, it looked like a thin, strong, low rope, knotted at regular intervals. Who are you? He whispered. Conan, a Cimmerian, answered the other. I came seeking a way to steal Yara's jewel, that men call the elephant's heart. Conan sensed the man's great belly shaking in laughter, but it was not derisive. By Bel, god of thieves, hissed Taurus. I had thought if only myself had the courage to attempt that poaching. Those Zamorians call themselves thieves. Bah! Conan, I like your grit. I never shared an adventure with anyone, but by Bel, we'll attempt this together if you're willing. Then you're after the gem too. What else? I've had my plans laid for months, but you, I think, have acted on a sudden impulse, my friend. You killed the soldier? Of course. I slid over the wall when he was on the other side of the garden. I came... Hold on. Oh, for fuck's sake. I hid in the bushes. He heard me, or thought he heard something. And when he came blundering over, it was no trick at all to get behind him and suddenly grip his neck and choke out his fool's life. He was like most men, half blind to the dark. A good eye thief should have eyes like a cat. Alright, now let's find some way to increase her zeal. Let's find Samo, a wife. Alright, she is a meddler, and she is actually the one who was involved in killing Martus and Suadra. Now they are married, adding more suspicion to Samo. Alright, you made one mistake, said Conan. Taurus's eyes flashed angrily. I a mistake? Impossible. You should have dragged the body into the bushes, said the novice to the master of the art. They will not change the guard until past midnight. Should any come searching for him now and find his body, they would flee at once to Yara, bellowing the news, and give us time to escape. Were they to not find it, they'd go on beating up the bushes and catch us like rats in a trap. You are right, agreed Conan. So, now attend. We waste time in this cursed discussion. There are no guards in the inner garden. Human guards, I mean. Though there are sentinels even more deadly. It was their presence that baffled me for so long, but I finally discovered a way to circumvent them. What of the soldiers in the lower part of the tower? Old Yara dwells in the chambers above. By that route we will come, and go, I hope. Never mind asking me how. I have arranged a way. We'll steal down through the top of the tower and strangle old Yara before he can cast any of his accursed spells in us. At least we'll try. It's the chance of being turned red into a spider or toad, against the wealth and power of the world. All good thieves must know how to take risk. I'll go as far as any man, said Conan, slipping off his sandals. Then follow me, and turning... Taurus leaped up, caught the wall, and drew himself over. The man's suppleness was amazing considering his bulk. He seemed to glide up over the edge of the coping. Conan followed him, and lying flat on the broad top, they spoke in wary whispers. I see no light, Conan muttered. The lower part of the tower seemed much like that portion visible out from outside the garden. A perfect gleaming cylinder, with no apparent openings. There are clever, early constructed doors and windows.
It ends now.
I didn't even have to try. Alright. There are cleverly constructed doors and windows, answered Taurus, but they are closed. They are closed. The soldiers breathe air that comes from above. The garden was a vague pool of shadows. The garden was a vague pool of shadows, where feathery bushes and low-spreading trees waved darkly in the starlight. Conan's weary soul felt the aura of waiting menace that brooded over it. He felt the burning glare of unseen eyes, and he caught a subtle scent that made the short hairs on his neck instinctively bristle, as a hunting dog bristles at the scent of an ancient enemy. "Follow me," whispered Taurus. "Keep behind me as you value your life." Taking what looks like a copper tube from his girdle, the Nemedian dropped slightly to the sward inside the wall. Conan was close behind him, sword ready, but Taurus pushed him back, close to the wall, and showed no indication to advance.
Fight with us. It's a good life.
Well met. What do you wish of me?
Alright, seems like a good, seems like a good infiltrator. His whole attitude was of tense expectancy, and his gaze, like Conan, was fixed on the shadowy mess of shrubbery a few yards away. This shrubbery was shaken, although the breeze had died down. Then two great eyes blazed from the waving shadows, and behind them, other sparks of fire glinted in the darkness. Lions! Aye, by day they are kept in subterranean caverns below the tower.
Spirits have noticed that our treasure stores are wanting.
Sounds good to me. That's why there are no guards in this garden. Conan counted the eyes rapidly. 5 in sight, many maybe more in the back in the bushes. They'll charge in a moment. Be silent, hissed Taurus, and he moved from behind out of the wall, cautiously treading on razors, lifting the slender tube. Low rumbling rose from the shadows, and the blazing eyes moved forward. Conan could sense the great slavering jaws, the tufted tails lashing tawny sides. The air grew tense. The Cimmerian gripped his sword, expecting the charge and the irresistible hurtling of giant bodies. Then Taurus brought the mouth of the tube to his lips and blew powerfully. A long jet of yellowish power shot from the other end of the tube and billowed out instantly in a thick green cloud that settled over the shrubbery, blotting out the glaring eyes. Taurus ran back hastily to the wall. Conan glared without understanding. The thick cloud hid the shrubbery. From it no sound came. "What is that mist?" the Cimmerian asked.
Ready for battle. Are you ready to do your duty to the tribe?
The road goes ever on and on. My words will sway them.
Ready for orders.
Death! If a wind springs up and blows it back on us, we must flee over the wall. But no, the wind is still, and now it is dissipating. Wait until it vanishes entirely. To breathe it is death. Presently, only yellowish shreds hung ghostly in the air. Then they were gone, and Taurus motioned his companion forward. Huh? Huh? This whole time, this whole time, my camera hasn't been working. Alright, let me see if I can fix that. Alright, that's better. Damn it. Okay. Anyways, let's get back to it. They stole towards the bushes, and Conan gasped. Stretched out in the shadows lay... Taurus, what was that powder? It was made from the Black Lotus, whose blossoms wave in the lost jungles of Kitai, where only the yellow-skulled priests of Yun dwell. Those blossoms strike dead any who smell them. Conan knelt beside the great forums, assuring himself that they were indeed beyond power of harm. He shook his head. The magic of the exotic lands was mysterious and terrible to the barbarians of the north. Why can you not slay the soldiers in the tower in that way? He asked. Because that was all the power I possessed. The obtaining of it was the feat which in itself was enough to make me famous among the thieves of the world. I stole it out of a caravan bound for Stygia, and I lifted it inside its cloth of gold bag out of the coils of the great serpent which guarded it, without awakening him. But come, in Bel's name, are we to waste the night in discussion? So basically, Conan at this point is being carried by Taurus. As Conan had no plan going in, because he's a man of action, not thought. And here is this actual super thief, master thief. The thief basically carrying the day. Wait, let me check something. The obtaining, okay, they glided through the shrubbery to the gleaming foot of the tower, and there, with emotion enjoining silence, Taurus unwound his knotted cord, on one end of which was a strong steel hook. Conan saw his plan and asked no questions. as the Nemedian gripped the lion a short distance below the hook and began to swing it around about his head. Conan laid his ear to the smooth wall and listened, but could hear nothing. Evidently, the soldiers within did not suspect the presence of intruders, who had made no more sound than the night wind blowing through the trees. But a strange nervousness was on the barbarian. Perhaps it was the lion smell which was over everything. Alright, what can I get last?
How can I assist you?
Taurus threw the line with a smooth, ripping motion of his mighty arm. The hook curved upward and inward in a peculiar manner, hard to describe, and then vanished over the jeweled rim. It caught apparently firmly, for cautious jerking and then hard pulling did not result in any slipping or giving. Luck the first cast, murmured Taurus. It was Conan's... It was Conan's savage instinct which made him wheel suddenly, for the death that was upon him made nor sound. A fleeting glimpse showed the Cimmerian the giant tawny shape, rearing upright against the stars, towering over him for the death stroke. No civilized man could have moved half so quickly as the barbarian moved. His sword flashed frostily in the starlight with every ounce of desperate nerve and threw behind it, and man and beast went down together. Cursing incoherently beneath his breath, Taurus bent above the mass and saw that his companion's limbs move as he strove to drag himself from under the great weight that lay limply upon them. A glance showed that the startled Nemedian that the lion was dead, its slanting skull split in half. He laid hold of the carcass, and by his aid, Conan thrust it aside and clambered up, still gripping his dripping sword. "Are you hurt, man?" gasped Taurus, still bewildered by the stunning swiftness of that touch-and-go episode. "No, by Crom," answered the barbarian, "but that was as close a call as I've had in my life, no ways tame. Why did the cursed beast roar as he charged?" "All things are strange in this garden," said Taurus. "The lion strike gently." Okay. Let's see if I can get an ambush off. All things are strange in this garden. The lion strikes silently, and so do other deaths. But little sound was made in that slaying, but the soldiers might have heard, if they are not asleep or drunk. That beast was in some other part of the garden and escaped the death of the flowers. But surely there are no more. We must climb this cord. Little need to ask Cimmerian if he can. "If it will bear my weight," grunted Conan, cleansing his sword on the grass. "It will bear twice my own," answered Taurus. "It was woven on the tresses of dread women, which I took from their tombs on midnight, and steeped in the deadly wine of the upas tree to give it strength." I will go first, then follow me closely. Then the Nemedian gripped the rope and, crooking a knee about it, began the ascent. He went up like a cat, belying the apparent clumsiness of his bulk. The Cimmerian followed. The cord swayed and turned on itself, but the climbers were not hindered. Both had made more difficult climbs before. Oh, what do you know? Dumbass. All right.
Thirsty for battle. Ready for orders.
Okay. Alright, cavalry rampage incoming. More shaking down. Alright. It might be worth giving Ordoic some glory. Anyways, Samo's scheme has worked, and the Celtici have been were caught in a deadly pincer move, with very few surviving the surviving the destruction. The prisoners were were kept to be ransomed for when for when the Lusitania's conflict was finally complete.
How can I assist you?
Ready for orders.
Let's see. Hundreds of horsemen horsemen and swordsmen from across the mountains have poured in and with the promise of Lusitani gold. Nothing to it.
Ready for orders. Thirsty for battle.
All right, now which mercenaries? Time to get rid of my mercenaries. They did their job. All right. Let's see.
Thirsty for battle.
All right, perfect. Alright, all seems good so far. Alright, an edict. How about... Alright, how about migration?
Ready for orders.
Alright. Up and up they went, silently, the lights of the city spreading out further and further to their sight as they climbed. The stars above them and more dimmed by the glitter of the jewels along the rim. Now Taurus reached up a hand and gripped the rim itself, pulling himself up and over. Conan paused a minute on the very edge, fascinated by the great frosty jewels whose gleams dazzled in his eyes. Diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, turquoises, moonstones, set thick as stars in the shimmering silver. At a close distance, their different gleams had seemed to merge into a pulsing white glare. But now, at close range, they shimmered with a million rainbow tints and lights, hypnotizing him with their scintillations. "There's a famous fortune on here, Taurus," he whispered, but the Nemedian answered impatiently, "Come on. If we secure the heart, these and all other things shall be ours." Conan climbed over the sparkling rim. The level of this tower's top was some feet below the gemmed ledge. It was flat, composed of some dark blue substance set with gold that caught the starlight, so that the whole looked like a wide sapphire flecked with shining gold dust. Let's see.
We need good fighters. Ready for battle. Warriors all.
Well met. I have drunk deep.
Ready for orders. Thirsty for battle.
Let's see. Let's go.
Ready for battle.
Okay. It was of the same silvery material as the walls of the tower, adorned with designs worked in smaller gems. Its single door was of gold, its surface cut and scaled, and crusted with jewels that gleamed like ice. Conan had cast a glance at the pulsing ocean of light which spread far below them, and then glanced at Taurus. The Nemedian was drawing up his cord and coiling it. He showed Conan where the hook had caught, a fraction of an inch of the point that had sunk under a great blazing jewel on the inner side of the rim. Luck was with us again. One would think that our combined weight would have torn that stone out. Follow me. The real risks of the venture begin now. We are in the serpent's lair, and we know not where he lies hidden. Like stalking tigers, they crept across the darkly gleaming floor and halted outside the sparkling door. With a deft and cautious hand, Taurus tried it. It gave without resistance, and the companions looked in, tensed for anything. Over the Nemedian's shoulder, Conan had a glimpse of a glittering chamber, the walls, ceiling, and floor of which were crusted with great white jewels which lighted it brightly, and which seemed its only illumination. It seemed empty of life. All right. Well, this all seems to be going along pretty naturally. Let's see.
Ready for orders.
Before we cut off our last retreat, hissed Taurus, go you to the rim and look over on all sides. If you see any soldiers moving in the gardens or anything suspicious, return and tell me. I will await you within this chamber. Conan saw scant reason in this, and a faint suspicion of his companion touched his weary soul. But he did as Taurus requested. As he turned away, the Nemedian slipped inside the door and drew it shut behind him. Conan crept about the rim of the tower, returning to this starting point without having seen any suspicious movement in the vaguely waving sea of leaves below. He turned towards the door, and suddenly from within the chamber they sounded a strangled cry. The Cimmerian leaped forward, electrified. The gleaming door floor was swung open, and Taurus stood framed in the cold blaze behind him. He swayed and his lips parted, but only a dry rattle burst from his throat. Catching at the gold door for sword, he lurched out upon the roof, then fell headlong, clutching his throat. The door swung to behind him. Conan, crouched like a panther at bay, saw nothing in the room behind the stricken Nemedian. Like in the brief instance, the door was partly open. Unless it was not a trick of the light, which made it seem as if a shadow had darted across the gleaming door. Nothing followed Taurus out on the roof, and Conan bent above the man. The Nemedian stared up with dilated, glazing eyes that somehow held a terrible bewilderment. His hands clawed at his throat. His lips slobbered and gurgled, and then suddenly he stiffened, and the astounded Cimmerian knew that he was dead. Yeah, I mean, he's a fat, murderous thief. There's no way he can be a recurring character unless he was a villain. That's just how things work. That's just how fantasy works. You can't be a hero unless you look good while doing it. The Nemedians... gingerly, the barbarian ran his hands over the man's half-naked body, seeking a wound. But only the only marks of violence were between his shoulders, high up near the base of his bull neck. 3 small wounds, which looked as if 3 nails had been driven deep into the flesh withdrawn. The edge of these wounds were black, and a faint smell of putrefaction was evident. Poison darts? Thought Conan. But in that case, the missiles should still be in the wounds. All right.
Move out! You have further orders? Thirsty for battle!
I'm going! I'm a warrior, not a milkmaid!
Cautiously, he strolled towards the gold door, pushed it open, and looked inside. The chamber lay empty, bathed in the cold, pulsing glow of the myriad jewels. In the very center of the ceiling, he idly noticed a curious design, a black, eight-sided pattern, in the center of which 4 gems glittered with a red flame, unlike the white blaze of the other jewels. Across the room there was another door, like the one in which he stood, except that it was not carved in the same scale pattern. Was it from that door that death had come? And having struck down its victim, had it retreated the same way? Closing the door behind him, the Cimmerian advanced into the chamber. His bare feet made no sound on the crystal floor. There were no chairs or tables in the chamber, only 3 or 4 silken couches, embroidered with gold and worked in strange serpentine designs, and several silver-bound mahogany chests. Some were sealed with heavy locks, others lay open, their carved lids thrown back, revealing heaps of jewels and a careless riot of splendor to the Cimmerian's astounded eyes. Conan swore beneath his breath. Already he had looked upon more wealth that night than he had ever dreamed existed in the world, and he grew dizzy of thinking of what the value of the jewel he sought. Basically, the question is, if you had access the problem is Conan, like many gamblers, and you have to be a gambler to be a thief, he does not know when to quit. He does not know how to cut his losses, and therefore he's generally going to get into trouble.
I'll get at them. I don't think things don't go as planned sometimes.
Oh. Alright. Where's the main army? Off fighting Carthage, alright. Alright. The local chieftain detests you. He curses your ambitions, your military might, and mocks your manhood. He makes it known to all that he should stand in your place.
For the tribe, thirsty for battle. We need good fighters.
He was in the center of the room now, going stooped forward, head thrust out warily, sword advanced, when again death struck at him soundly. A flying shadow that swept across the gleaming floor was his only warning, and his instinctive sidelong leap all that saved his life. He had a flashing glimpse of a hairy black horror that swung past him with a clashing of frothing fangs, and had something splashed on his bare shoulder that burned like drops of liquid hellfire. Springing back, sword high, he saw the horror strike the floor, wheel and scuttle towards him with appalling speed. A gigantic black spider, such as men see only in nightmare dreams. Now, I'm not sure if I ever mentioned this, but I am kind of arachnophobic. Not in the sense that I'm afraid of all spiders. Well, I don't like it when big spiders move very fast. That's really unnerving. But the sight of small of like spiders the size of a penny doesn't really unnerve me that much. In fact, larger spiders don't really unnerve me that much. Like huntsman spiders don't. The thing that really bothers me is tarantulas. Tarantulas, the round shape of their leg and the enormous size of their rumps. Something about it somehow just really just gives me the heebie-jeebies. So yeah, not a fan. I'm just wondering, what would this this horrible creature look like? Is it one of the spindly-legged ones, like the huntsman spider, or is it a tarantula? Probably, it's probably a huntsman spider, because spider-like, because that way it can move fast. Tarantulas don't move like super fast. Generally, they move. They stand very slowly still, blend into their surroundings, and then suddenly strike. These thoughts flashed briefly through Conan's mind as the monsters rushed. It was as large as a pig, and its 8 thick hairy legs drove its ogreish body over the floor at a headlong pace. Its 4 evilly gleaming eyes shone with a horrible intelligence, and its fangs that dripped venom that Conan knew from the burning of his shoulder, where only a few drops had splashed as the thing struck and missed, was laden with swift death. This was the killer that had dropped from its perch in the middle of the ceiling on a strand of its web on the neck of the Nemedian. Fools that they were not to have suspected that the upper chambers would be guarded as well as the lower. These thoughts flashed briefly through Conan's mind as the monster rushed. He leapt high. Hold on.
The guards will have me.
My ears.
All right, so these thoughts flashed briefly through Conan's mind as the monster rushed. He leapt high, and it passed behind him, wheeled and charged back. This time he evaded its rush with a sideways leap, and struck back like a cat. His sword severed one of the hairy legs, and again he barely saved himself as the monstrosity swerved at him, its fangs clicking fiendishly. But the creature did not press the pursuit. Turning, it scuttled across the crystal floor and ran up the wall to its ceiling, where it crouched for an instant, glaring down at him with its fiendish red eyes. Then, without warning, it launched itself through space, trailing a strand of slimy grey stuff. Conan stepped back to avoid the hurtling body, then ducked frantically, just in time to escape being snared by the flying web rope. He saw the monster's intent and sprang towards the door, but it was quicker, and a sticky strand cast across the floor the door made him a prisoner. He dared not to try to cut it with his sword, and he knew the stuff would cling to his blade, and before he could shake it loose, the fiend would be sinking its fangs into his back. Medium spearmen. Lots of them. Let's see if I can get an ambush off.
On the move, lads.
Alright. Then began a desperate game. The wits and quickness of the man matched against the fiendish craft and speed of the spider. It no longer scuttled across the floor in direct charge, or swung its body through the air at him. It raced across about the ceilings and the walls, seeking to snare him in the long loops of sticky grey web strands, which it flung with a devilish accuracy. These strands were thick as ropes, and Conan knew that once they were coiled around him, his desperate strength would not be able to tear him free before the monster struck. A hot, sticky goon web. All over the chamber went in that devil's game, in utter silence, except for the quick breathing of the man, the low scuff of his bare feet on the shining floor, the castanet rattle of the monstrosity's fangs. The grey strands lay in coils on the floor. They were looped along the walls. They overlaid the jewel chests and silken couches, and hung in dusky festoons from the jeweled ceiling. Conan's steel-trap quickness of eye and muscle had kept him untouched. Though the sticky loops had passed him, so close they rasped his naked hide. He knew that he could not always avoid them. So he not only had to watch the strands swinging from the ceiling, but to keep his eye on the floor, lest he trip in the coils that lay there. Sooner or later, a gummy loop with rhythm about him, python-like, and then, wrapped in a cocoon, he would lie at the monster's mercy. The spider raced across the chamber floor, the grey rope waving about it. Conan leapt high, clearing a crouch, and with a quick wheel, the fiend ran up on the wall, and then the strand, leaping off the floor like a live thing, whipped about the Cimmerian's ankle. He caught himself on his hands as he fell, jerking frantically at the web which held him like a pliant vise, or the coil of a python. The hairy devil was racing down the wall to complete its capture. Stung to frenzy, Conan caught up a jewel chest and hurled with all his strength. It was a move the monster was not expecting. Full in the midst of the branching black legs, the massive missile struck, smashing against the wall with a muffled, sickling crunch. Blood and greenish slime splattered across the shattered mass.
Fear us. It is in your eyes, in your stench, and you are right to fear. War comes.
Wow, what an asshole! What's my influence like?
Thirsty for battle. For the tribe. Warrior, get moving. What you can't steal, burn.
Better get a shift on. I'm getting a twitchy sword hand.
Alright, let's bring the king out. Either that. Yeah, let's bring the king out.
What do you want?
Ready for battle. Warriors all.
Blood and greenish slime splattered, and the shattered mass fell with the burst gem chest to the floor. The crushed black body lay among the flaming riot of jewels. Can I take this guy? The auto-resolve thinks I can. Maybe I can do some sneaky maneuvers. The hairy legs moved aimlessly. The dying eyes glittered redly among the twinkling gems. Conan glared about, but no other horror appeared, and he set himself to working free of the web. The substance clung tenaciously to his ankle and his hands, but at last he was free, and taking up his sword, he picked away his way among the grey coils and loops to the inner door. What horrors lay within he did not know. The Cimmerian's blood was up, and since he had come so far and overcome so much peril, he was determined to go through the grim finish of this adventure, whatever that might be. And he felt that the jewel he sought was not among the many so carelessly strewn upon the gleaming chamber. Okay.
Spears! We'll kill them all!
Our hidden units have been discovered.
Oh boy. I did not expect that. They deployed like right all the way up.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
I did not know the AI could actually do that. I thought they would always start.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Our spears are yours! Spearmen ready for battle! Ready! Orders! Ready! Orders! Yo! Warriors! Ready! Missile riders! Forward!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Oh dear.
Warriors! Draw your weapons! Battle! Orders! Ready! Gotcha! All right! It's all on, riders! Our aim is true! Understood! Quickly now!
Alright, let's get a Cantabrian circle going.
Iberian cavalry! Fire! Yield, warriors! Warriors! Iberian cavalry! Riders! Missile warriors! Fire! Skirmishers! Follow me forward! Our shots!
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Skirmishers! Get running! Take aim! Battle! Ready! Iberian cavalry! Skirmishers!
Gotta focus.
We hunger for blood and battle! Kill, kill, kill! Pierce their hearts! Iberian cavalry! Riders, advance!
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Cut them down! Warriors, ready! Get running! Iberian cavalry! Ready!
Our general is under attack.
Okay.
Let's move in! D10! Forward! Hold on!
Iberian cavalry!
Mountain missile warriors!
Ready for battle!
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Iberian cavalry! Iberian cavalry!
Orders! All right!
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Quickly now! Missile warriors!
Iberian cavalry!
Riders advance! Battle ready! Understood!
Tribesman!
Skirmishers! Won't curse you!
The gods guide our shots! Riders forward! Orders! Quickly now! Spears ready! Iberian cavalry! Make them
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Advance at speed!
Okay. I think this is winnable. I just need to be very, very slick with my cavalry.
Warriors ready! Iberian cavalry! Shield warriors! We'll kill them all!
Iberian cavalry!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Okay, the painted warriors have been run down.
Iberian cavalry! Warriors eager for blood! Guide our shots! Iberian cavalry! Back!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Warriors ready! Iberian!
Oh man, my plan just got absolutely foiled.
Missile riders! Kill! Kill! Kill!
Iberian cavalry!
Well, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Iberian cavalry! Spears! Iberian cavalry!
Shield warriors!
Alright.
Iberian cavalry!
Charge! Missile riders! Make round! Orders!
Oh no.
One of our units has used all its ammunition.
Iberian cavalry!
Withdraw!
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Gotcha! Warriors ready!
Skirmishes!
What's up? Ah! Iberian cavalry!
At this point, my general is just barely holding them all off. They're just holding them all off on their own. His bodyguard, I mean. It's such a good plan too. The plan was to basically the plan was to basically shower them with missiles then fall back and ambush them with my spearmen, but wasn't meant to be. Forgot that the people I was. Again, the AI rarely ever does this. The AI rarely ever.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful display.
Rarely ever actually uses its guerrilla deployment ability and deploys past its vanguard deployment ability. I mean. All right.
We have discovered the enemy's hidden units.
Well, that was pretty hopeless. Stripping off the loops that fouled the inner door, he found that it, like the other, was not locked. He wondered if the soldiers below were still unaware of his presence. Well, he was high above their heads. If the tales were to be believed, they were used to strange noises in the tower above them. Sinister sounds and screams of agony and horror. Yara was on his mind. Great. Thing is glitching. And he was not altogether comfortable as he opened the golden door. But he saw only a flight of silver steps leading down, dimly lighted by what means he could not ascertain. Down these he went silently, gripping his sword. He heard no sound and came presently to an ivory door, set with bloodstones. He listened, but no sound came from within. Only thin wisps of smoke drifted lazily from beneath the door, bearing to a curious exotic odor unfamiliar to the Cimmerian. Below him, the silver stair wound down to vanish in the distance, and up that shadowy well no sound floated. He had an eerie feeling that he was alone in a tower occupied only by ghosts and phantoms. That was so stupid.
Fall back! Destination reached.
Well, at the very least, my general survived. So his great utility utility abilities aren't going to waste. Chapter 3. Cautiously, he pressed against the ivory door, and it swung silently inward. On the shimmering threshold, Conan stared like a wolf in strange surroundings, ready to fight or flee in the instant. He was looking into a large chamber with a domed golden ceiling. The walls were in green jade, the floor of ivory, partly covered by thick rugs. Smoke and exotic scent of incense and floated from a brazier on a golden tripod, and beneath it sat an idol on a marble couch. Conan stared aghast. The image had the body of a man, naked and green in color. It had no attributes of humanity. Conan stared at the wide flaring ears, the curling proboscis, and on either side of which stood white tusks tipped with round golden balls. The eyes were closed, as if in sleep. This, then, was the reason for the name, the Tower of the Elephant, for the head of the thing was much like that of the beast described by the Shemitist wanderer. This was Yara's god. Where then should the gem be, but concealed in the idol, since the stone was called the elephant's heart? As Conan came forward, his eyes fixed on the motionless idol. The eyes of the thing opened suddenly. The Cimmerian froze in his tracks. It was no image. It was a living thing, and he was trapped in its chamber. Okay, this is getting a bit out of hand. Alright, the flaming Falcaras. Again, the thing is glitched up so that a lot of the, what is it? A lot of the menu items are transparent. So I'm going to quickly finish this finish reading. That he did not instantly explode in a burst of murderous frenzy is in fact a fact that measures his horror, which paralyzed him where he stood. A civilized man in his position would have sought doubtful refuge in the conclusion that he was insane. It did not occur to the Cimmerian to doubt his senses. He knew he was face to face with a demon of the Elder World, and the realization robbed him of all his specific faculties except sight. The trunk of the horror was lifted and quested about. The topaz eyes stared unseeingly, and Conan knew the monster was blind. With the thought came a thawing of his frozen nerves, and he began to back silently towards the door. But the creature heard. The sensitive trunk stretched towards him, and Conan's horror froze him again when the being spoke, in a strange, stammering voice that never changed its key or timbre. The Cimmerian knew that those jaws were never built or intended for human speech. "Who is here? Have you come to torture me again, Yara? Will you never be done? Oh, young Kosha, is there no end to agony?" Let's see. Let's see. All right. Tears rolled from the sightless eyes, and Conan's gaze strayed to the limbs stretched in the marble couch, and he knew the monster would not rise to attack him. He knew the marks of the rack, and the searing brand of the flame, and tough-souled as he was, he stood aghast at the ruined deformities which his reason told him had once been limbs, as comely as his own. And suddenly, all fear and repulsion welled from him, to be replaced by a great pity. What this monster was, Conan could not know, but the evidences of his sufferings were so terrible and pathetic that a strange, aching sadness came over the Cimmerian, and he not knew why. He only felt that he was looking upon a cosmic tragedy, and he shrank with shame, as if the guilt of a whole race were laid upon him. "I am not Yara," he said. "I am only a thief. I will not harm you." "Come near that I may touch you," the creature faltered, and Conan came near unfearingly, his sword hanging forgotten in his hand. The sensitive trunk came out and groped over his face and shoulders, as a blind man gropes, and its touch was as light as a girl's hand. "You are not one of Yara's race of devils," sighed the creature. "The clean, lean fierceness of the wastelands marks you. I know your people from old, one who I knew by another name in the long, long ago, when the world lifted its jeweled spires to the stars. There's blood in your fingers." "A spider in the chamber above, and a lion in the garden," muttered Conan. "You have slain a man too this night. And there is death in the tower above. I know." "Aye," muttered Conan. "The prince of all thieves lies there dead from the bite of a vermin." So, the The strange inhuman voice rose in a sort of low chant. A slaying in the tavern and a slaying on the road. I know, I feel. And the third will make the magic of which not even Yara dreams. Oh, magic of deliverance, green gods of Yag. Again, tears fell as the tortured body was rocked to and fro in the grip of varied emotions. Conan looked on, bewildered. Then the convulsions ceased. The soft, sightless eyes were turned towards the Cimmerian. The trunk beckoned. Oh, man, listen, said the strange being. I am foul and monstrous to you, am I not? Nay, do not answer, I know. But you would seem as strange as me to me, could I see you. There are many worlds besides this earth, and life takes many shapes. I am neither god nor demon, but flesh and blood you're like yourself, though the substance differ in part, and the form be cast in a different mold. I am very old, O man of the waste countries. Long and long ago I came to this planet with others of my world, from the green planet Yag, which circles forever in the outer fringe of this universe. We swept through space on mighty wings that drove us through the cosmos quicker than light, because we had warred with the kings of Yag and were defeated and outcast. But we could never return, for on earth our wings withered from our shoulders. Here we abode apart from earthly life. We fought the strange and terrible forms of life with which then walked the earth, so that we became feared, and were not molested in the dim jungles of the east, where we had our abode. We saw men grow from the ape and build the shining cities of Valusia, Camellia, Comoria, and their sisters. We saw them reel before the thrusts of the heathen Atlanteans and Picts and Lemurians. We saw the oceans rise and engulf Atlantis and Lemuria. And the isles of the Picts and the shining cities of civilization. We saw the survivors of Pictum and Atlantis build their Stone Age empires and go down into ruin, locked in bloody wars. We saw the Picts sink into abysmal savagery, and the Atlanteans into apedom again. We saw new savages drift southward in conquering waves from the Arctic Circle to build a new civilization, with new kingdoms called Nemedia and Koth and Aquilonia and their sisters. We saw your people rise under a new name from the jungles of the apes that had been Atlanteans. We saw the descendants of the Lemurians who had survived the cataclysm rise again through savagery and ride westwards as Hyrcanians. And we saw this race of devils, survivors of the ancient civilization that was before Atlantis sank, come once more into power, culture and power, this accursed kingdom of Zamora. So obviously most of you guys who are listening to this can't keep up with the whole thing. Just know this guy is very old. He's telling tales of how the world changed, and all this we saw, neither aiding nor hindering the immutable cosmic law. And one by one we died, for we of Yag are not immortal. Oh, though our lives are as the lives of planets and constellations. Okay, so he is still coming my way. I could take the risk. I think I will.
I'll just put that there.
Come on. Ah, hey, we did it. It's not gonna help though. He's too close.
What do you want? Hold out a weapon!
For the tribe!
What kind of mercs can I get? Oh, not bad.
For the tribe!
Okay. Let's embezzle again.
Ready for orders! Come, fight for us, lads! Warriors all!
For we of Yag are not immortal, though our lives are as the lives of planets and constellations. At last, I alone was left, dreaming of old times among the ruined temples of the jungle lost Kitai, worshipped as a god by the ancient yellow-skinned race. Then came Yara, versed in dark knowledge handed down through the days of barbarism, since before Atlantis sank. First, he sat at my feet and learned wisdom. But he was not enslaved, satisfied with what I taught him, for it was white magic, and he wished evil lore to enslave kings and glut a fiendish ambition. I would teach him none of the black secrets I had gained, through no wish of mine, through the eons. But his wisdom was deeper than I had guessed. With guile gotten above the dusky tombs of dark Stygia, he trapped me into divulging a secret I had not intended to bear, and turning my own power upon me, he enslaved me. Ah, gods of Yag, my cup has been bitter since that hour. He brought me up from the lost jungles of Kitai, where the grey apes danced to the pipes of the yellow priests, and offerings of fruit and wine heaped my broken altars. No more was I a god to the kindly jungle folk. I was a slave to a devil in human form. Again, tears stole from the unseeing eyes. He pent me in this tower, which at his command I built for him in a single night. By fire and rack he mastered me, and through strange unearthly tortures you not understand. In agony I would long ago have taken my own life if I could, but he kept me alive, mangled, blinded, and broken to do his foul bidding. And for 300 years I have done his bidding, from this marble couch, blackening my soul with cosmic sins, and straining my wisdom with crimes, because I had no other choice. Yet not all my ancient secrets has he wrested from me, and my last gift shall be the sorcery of the blood and jewel. For I feel the end of time draws near. You are the hand of fate. I beg of you, take the gem you will find on yonder altar. Conan turned to the gold and ivory altar indicated, and took up a great round jewel, clear as crimson crystal, and he knew that this was the heart of the elephant. Now for the great magic, the mighty magic, such as earth has not seen before, and shall not see again, through a million of millenniums. By my lifeblood I conjure it, by blood born on the green breast of Yag, dreaming far poised in the great blue vastness of space. Take your sword, man, and cut out my heart, then squeeze it so that the blood will flow over the red stone. Then go you down on these stairs, and enter the ebony chamber where Yara sits lapped in lotus dreams of evil. Speak his name, and he will awaken. Then lay this gem before him, and say, Yag Kosha gives you a last gift and the last enchantment. Then get you from the tower quickly. Fear not, your way shall be made clear. The life of man is not the life of Yag, nor is human death the death of Yag. Let me be free of this cage of broken blind flesh, and I will be once more be Yoga of Yag. Morning crowned and shining, with wings to fly and feet to dance, and eyes to see and hands to break. Uncertainly, Conan approached, and Yag Kosha, or Yoga, as if sensing his uncertainty, indicated where he should strike. Conan set his teeth and drove the sword deep. Blood streamed over the blade in his hand, and the monster started convulsively, then lay back quite still. Sure that life had fled, or at least life as he understood it, Conan set to work on his grisly task, and quickly brought forth something that he felt must be the strange being's heart, though it differed curiously from any he had ever seen. Holding the pulsing organ over the blazing jewel, he pressed it with both hands, and a rain of blood fell on the stone. To his surprise, it did not run off, but soaked into the gem as water is absorbed by a sponge. Holding the jewel gingerly, he went out of the fantastic chamber and came upon the silver steps. He did not look back. He instinctively felt that some transmutation was taking place in the body on the marble couch, and he further felt that it was of a sort not to be witnessed by human eyes. He closed the ivory door behind him and without hesitation descended on the silver steps. It did not occur to him to ignore the instructions given him. He halted at an ebony door, in the center of which was a grinning silver skull, and pushed it open. He looked into a chamber of ebony and jet and saw on a black silken couch a tall, spare form reclining. Yara, the priest and sorcerer, lay before him, his eyes open and dilated with the fumes of the yellow lotus, far staring, as if fixed on gulfs and nighted abysses beyond human ken. "Yara!" said Conan, like a judge pronouncing doom. "Awaken!" Where did he go? I wasn't paying attention. I'm not sure if he's ambushing.
Thirsty for battle. Ready for further orders.
Well, shit. I'm being ambushed. But it suggests that I might be able to win this, so I don't know. Hugh sent this gem, bade me say, Yag Kosha gives you a last gift and a last enchantment. Yar recoiled, his dark face ashy. The jewel was no longer crystal clear. Its murky depths pulsed and throbbed, and curious smoky waves of changing color passed over its smooth surface. As if drawn hypnotically, Yara bent over the table and gripped the gem in his hands, staring into its shadowed depths, as if it were a magnet to draw the shuddering soul from his body. And as Conan looked, he thought that his eyes must be playing tricks, for when Yara had risen up from his couch, the priest had seemed gigantically tall. Yet for now, he saw that Yara's head would scarcely come to his shoulder. He blinked, puzzled, and for the first time that night, doubted his own senses. Then, with a shock, he realized that the priest was shrinking in stature, was growing smaller before his very gaze. With a detached feeling, he watched, as a man might watch a play, immersed in a feeling of overpowering unreality. The Cimmerian was no longer assured of his own identity. He only knew that he was looking upon the external evidence of the unseen play of vast outer forces beyond his understanding. Now, Yara was no bigger than a child. Now like an infant, he sprawled on the table, still grasping the jewel. And now the sorcerer suddenly realized his fate. He strung up, releasing the gem. But still he dwindled, and Conan saw a tiny pygmy figure rushing wildly above the ebony tabletop. But waving tiny arms and shrieking in a voice that was like the squeak of an insect. Now he had shrunk until the great jewel towered above him like a hill, and Conan saw him covering his eyes with his hands, and to shield him from the glare, he staggered about like a madman. Conan sensed that some unseen magnetic force was pulling Yara into the gem. Thrice he raced about it in a narrowing circle. Thrice he strove to turn and run out across the table. Then, with a scream that echoed faintly in the ears of the watcher, the priest threw up his arms and ran straight towards the blazing globe. Bending close, Conan saw Yara clamber up the smooth, curving surface, impossibly, like a man climbing a glass mountain. Now the priest stood upon the top, still with tossing arms, invoking what grisly names only the gods know. And suddenly, he sank into the very heart of the jewel, as a man sinks into the sea, and Conan saw the smoky waves close over his head. Now he saw him as the crimson heart of the jewel, once more crystal clear, as a man sees a scene far away, tiny within a great distance. And into the heart came a green, shining winged figure, with the body of a man and the head of an elephant, no longer blind or crippled. Yara threw up his arms and fled as a madman flees, and on his heels came the Avenger. Then, like the burst of a bubble, the great jewel vanished in a rainbow of bursts of iridescent gleams, and the ebony table top lay bare and deserted. As bare, Conan somehow knew, as the marble couch in the chamber above, where the body of that strange transcosmic being named Yag Kosha and Yoga had lain. The Cimmerian turned and fled from the chamber, down the silver stairs. So mazed was he that it did not occur to him to escape from the tower the way he had entered it. Down that winding, shadowy silver he ran, and came into a large chamber at the foot of the gleaming stairs. Then he halted for an instant, and he had come into the room of soldiers. He saw that the glimmer of their silver corselets, the sheen of their jeweled sword hilts. They sat slumped at the banquet hoard, their dusky plumes waving somberly above their drooping helmeted heads. They lay among their dice and fallen goblets on the wine-stained lapis lazuli floor, and he knew that when they were dead, the promise had been made, the word kept. Whether sorcery or magic or the falling shadow of great keen wings had stilled the revelry, Conan could not know, but his way had been made clear, and a silver door stood open, framed in the whiteness of dawn. Into the waving green gardens came the Cimmerian, and as the dawn wind blew upon him with the cool fragrance of luxuriant growths, he started like a man waking from a dream. He turned back uncertainly to stare at the cryptic tower he had just left. Was he bewitched and enchanted? Had he dreamed all that it seemed to have passed? As he looked, he saw the gleaming tower sway into the crimson dawn, its jewel-crusted rim sparkling in the growing light, and crash into shining stars. The end. So yeah, this story is the original dungeon crawl. Very much the original dungeon crawl. That's how you, and if you want to pay a tribute to it, just write a story where a guy goes to loot a dungeon, he fights his way through the dungeon, he meets an ancient creature imprisoned by the dungeon's owner, fulfills that owner's last request, and then last request, usually probably ensuring the owner's death, and then leaves and the dungeon is destroyed. Pretty simple, yet the language is exquisite. The character is very much likable, and it just fills you with wonder. It's amazing. And this is my passion, along with anime and Japanese horror, sword and sorcery. So sorcery captures the essence of masculinity and femininity, the essence of rustic heroism that will never die. But yeah, that's my stream, and thank you very much for coming. Edo, I know that you probably didn't understand half of the things that were going on because your English isn't that good, but thank you very much for coming anyways, and I'm going to be timestamping the VOD for people in the future, so god damn, my voice hurts after all that talking. So yeah, it has been a pleasure sharing with you the wonders of my passion of sword and sorcery, but now it is time to go. Thanks for coming, and expect more to come.